Matt Reeves directs The Batman. So I sort of went on blanket mode for this movie. I only knew the cast, the running time, and the director. I didn't want to know any plot details. I didn't want to know anything about this movie besides anything else. I only saw the teaser trailer, and I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. Matt Reeves is a solid director. I really enjoy the Planet of the Apes reboot trilogy, and just that. I don't like Let Me In or Cloverfield. But anyways, he's really grown as a director. You know, if his first movie was Cloverfield and now he's doing Batman, that's a long way to go over the course of 14 years. So that's pretty awesome for him that he gets to direct a solid movie. This movie, let's talk about the pacing. When I first walked into the movie theater with my friend, I asked him if he needed to use the washroom. He didn't know that the movie was 3 hours long, but after the credits were rolling, he said the movie flew by. Same for me too. The movie's really long, but it's pretty well paced. It feels like a really long detective epic in the vein of like The Godfather or The French Connection, to be honest. The pacing's pretty solid. There's lots of action throughout, developed characters. It feels like a crime movie instead of a superhero movie. They don't actually call him Batman, I don't think, at any time in the movie. They call him like the weirdo or the freak or Mr. Vengeance. Same with Catwoman. She just goes by her cat burglar name. She doesn't really have a alter ego. She doesn't play up the cat elements. She uses a whip once only in the movie, and she's mostly just a martial artist. Uses a gun. You know, it's very pared down. It's very gritty. The tone, this is probably the closest we'll get to ever to be David Fincher's Batman, basically. The Riddler design and his way of doing things feels like a modern day Zodiac killer, basically, from the hood design and everything. And the rain, the atmosphere, you know, a lot of people, like you can do that now. Movies can sort of borrow an entire aesthetic or style from another director, and you can't really like say you stole their thing. There's no copyrights on style. So when Todd Phillips did the Joker movie, he did like a sort of Martin Scorsese style 70s crime movie about like a damaged mental man, you know, going through a mental breakdown, basically. It's a drama crime movie a little bit, but it was really like subtle and like, so this movie's the same way. It honestly feels like David Fincher was like, oh, finally I'm directing a Batman movie, but you know, they take away the theatrics and stuff. Batman's a sort of brooding younger hero this time around. He doesn't like to go around as Bruce Wayne. They changed a lot of aspects of the story. For example, he's not a, you know, he's still a billionaire, but he's not like a playboy. He's more of a sort of recluse, sort of emo kid kind of thing, because he's younger in this movie. He's only been Batman for 2 years. The cast does a fabulous job. The cast is so good. You got like Alfred playing like the father figure. Catwoman's got her own storyline going. She fits in seamlessly. She doesn't feel like she sticks out like in The Dark Knight Rises. Riddler's got his own thing going on. He's kind of got like the Seven situation kind of thing going on with like traps and riddles and bombs and stuff like that. Colin Farrell does a really good job as Penguin. It's very subtle. He's sort of like doing a Robert De Niro kind of thing going on. Like he's not a main player, but he's there. He adds a lot to it. He's got a lot of personality. Pretty good side characters too, like Jim Gordon's there. He's kind of like a sidekick, really. But the cast does a great job. I'm really glad everyone got something to do, and the movie's definitely long enough to let everything breathe, and there's plenty of action. In terms of flaws, I guess the finale's a little underwhelming for me. It just, you know, it could have been better, I felt, you know, but overall the movie's very strong. I remember the director saying that he wanted this Batman to be like a more grounded detective noir story, and he delivers on that front. This doesn't feel like a superhero movie. This feels like Nolan's movies, but more gritty and more atmospheric than those ones. Those ones were high on the sci-fi, you know, like the Nolan movies are really up on the technology and stuff like that. This one was more of a grounded detective story. You know, you could have easily taken Batman out of this movie, replaced him with some ex-boxer or Daredevil. It would have worked the same way too. There's a scene where like Batman's running around and like the alleys, he looks like Daredevil. He's got like a really blocky suit. So it's interesting to see how this movie was influenced by other media too. Like, you know, he's got like a suit that kind of looks like Daredevil. A tone is like borrowed from like Seven or 70s crime thrillers. It's got this sort of, you know, detective story thing going on, like Chinatown, corruption. It's a really interesting amalgam of all these things we've seen before, because it borrows elements from the comic too. There's a lot of Batman Year One in there. There's a lot of other comic touches that I don't want to get into, but overall, it's a really interesting, hodgepodge mix of all these different things. They borrow stuff from the comics, previous films, different styles, different types of detective story mode things. It's really interesting, It's definitely a Batman movie we haven't seen before, because usually Batman movies are like, Batman's taking out a room of 200 people, awesome, but or he's fighting aliens. But this one's going for like a really grounded sort of situation, and it might be problematic for future sequels as well, because if you ground everything, then you can't really do the more fantastical, like Rogues Gallery. Like we still haven't had a live action Mad Hatter. The last Mr. Freeze was ridiculous. So like it kind of limits what you can do in terms of like fitting this new world, because this movie almost borrows the same sort of atmosphere and setting and style of Joker, the 2019 film. So I mean, if you want to do a sequel to this movie, you have to be a little bit more selective with what villain you can do. It'd be hard to do like Clayface in a very grounded, realistic movie like this. So The Batman's a very well-directed movie with an amazing musical score. Cast does a great job, really engrossing story. It's a new tone, something we haven't seen before. It's expertly directed. Definitely kept my attention throughout the entire running time. And I give The Batman an 8.5 out of 10.